Welcome to the Ghoul's Guide to Santa Barbara. I have crossed oceans of time to find you.
I know this one.
What is it?
Oh, God. It's right on the tip of my tongue.
If I do it in like a hokey accent, will it help you?
Maybe.
Can I guess?
Do it.
I'll let you guess.
I just want to hear the accent.
No, I can't do it. Okay.
Liz, do you know?
Is it Dracula?
Bram Stoker's.
Oh,
The one with Gary Oldman, right? Yeah. Oh,
The best one. The best
So
with
good.
Keanu.
I have some things to tell you about
Yes,
this
tell
movie.
Oh, my God, yes.
So that was from Bram Stoker's Dracula. The whole thing is the title.
Yes.
Francis Ford Coppola's 1992 adaptation of the 1897 vampire novel. I loved this movie so much.
So good.
It's
I
so
actually got
good.
punished and had to like break out of my house and go to my friend's house and get driven to the theater to be allowed to see it. And then it was dark and I sat on somebody's lap because I thought that the seat was empty.
Oh my God.
So I went through not oceans of time, but like some travails to get to see this movie.
That's horrifying. I
know, it was
Sitting
so-
on somebody's lap.
It was so embarrassing. I just sat on him. So I loved it when I was an angsty teen, as I
Yes.
said.
Yes, so many a goth kid this movie made.
No, even including Keanu Reeves' famously bad British accent.
So bad.
I say, is the castle fall?
But so good.
He played Jonathan Harker. Winona Ryder was Mina Murray. Sadie Frost played Lucy. Like the most campy, horrible. Like, oh my gosh.
Winona forever.
Yeah, the first of the gang to die. Richard E. Grant was Dr. Seward, and he was so good. He ran an asylum containing somehow Tom Waits as Redfield.
That's right. Oh, I need to watch that again. It's been
Seriously.
so long.
Gary Oldman was our Count Dracula, and I'm saving the best for last. Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Van Helsing.
Yes.
In what was kind of panned, like review wise.
Yeah.
But I think is maybe his best. Like, I love him as Dr. Van
Yeah.
Helsing. Oh, so like the whole movie, it's interesting because it's like a gorgeous movie, but also really gross looking to me. Like it's repellent to me. So it's
Oh.
like this weird like balance between like, is he hot? Is he gross? Like, are the costumes beautiful? Or are they?
The
ugh?
costumes are
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's very true.
The costumes won an Oscar that year, but
Yeah.
they're like just a little off or too over the top for me, like in a way, but I think they're supposed to. And I don't know if you remember, but in like one of the Treehouse of Horror Simpsons episodes, like Mr. Burns is Dracula, and he like walks across the room and his cape just like trails forever.
Yes.
And so like the other thing I love about this movie, though, I didn't discover until later in life. And it's that all of the special effects or physical effects done in camera.
Yes.
Oh.
I was going to say, I love the like, it's like paper cutouts or like
Oh, yeah.
puppet
Like the shadow
like-
puppets at the beginning with
My-
yeah.
My dad was an artist, and we did a painting of that scene together. And like we both signed it, you know?
Oh, I love that.
Oh, do you still have it?
No.
No. There's a cool video. I think it's called The Naive Visual Effects of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Ooh.
It's on YouTube, and we can link to it on our website and on our YouTube channel. The website is ghoulsguidetosb.com. Every place else, we're at Ghoul's Guide to SB. Oh,
Cool.
tiny plug, like go like and subscribe. It really helps us. But yeah, I totally recommend that movie. It does stand up, although it maybe doesn't stand up to like when you were an angsty teen and kind of like half in love with like anyone in a movie. And
I
like
think
one
anyone and everyone in the
I
movie.
think it'll still hold up.
yeah, it's good.
100%.
It's good. And like just knowing that the visual effects were all happening like in the moment.
Yeah.
Like
In the camera.
practical effects.
Yeah. And they were like, you know, just like reflections or mirrors or whatever, like just all kinds of different
That's
stuff.
cool.
It makes it definitely worth a watch.
Gosh, I love that movie.
Same.
I want to be Winona Ryder in that movie. Except like, okay, the thing about like beautiful and repellent, like she makes out with him when he's like a face dissolved, gross old
Yeah,
like
it's-
that's
there's,
right.
there's some
vampire.
gross. There's a lot of grossness.
Yeah, I'd be
The
like,
little
could you
baddie.
like morph back into Gary Oldman because
Right?
like
Yeah.
my love is conditional.
I mean, and there's also like the troubling stealing away of a woman,
Yeah.
and you know, there's that. But yeah, I also wanted to be her. Her look in that movie is right up there with Christina Ricci in Sleepy Hollow.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, the costuming is
Yes.
just, I want every single thing that's worn.
I'm trying to think
Both
if I
those
can
movies.
find any flaw in that movie. You know how like some movies are just like so awesome, and then but there's like one thing where you're like, nope, nope, can't get past that. Like, I cannot think of
No, it's just great.
anything wrong with that movie.
Me either. Yeah. That's a good one.
This is, as we said at the start, The Ghoul's Guide to Santa Barbara. And I'm Liz.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Summers.
And today, Miss Jen is going to tell us the story, Cold Case, the murder of Kym Morgan.
Yes, I am. So this one is, like I said, a cold case. And a lot of times I personally don't, I like a resolution.
Right. Yeah.
I like things to be tied up at the end, like a nice little package. But as I have a personal connection to this that you will hear in the story, tangentially, and because it remains to be unsolved, I chose to do it because in hopes that since it is still an active case, that just in case anybody out there happens to hear this or, hears about this and is led to talk about it or share it with anyone. And if in any tiny, small way, I can participate in the resolution of this case, I am happy to play that role.
Shedding some light on it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Attention.
I like that.
And maybe approach it in a different way than a lot of the things that I read up to refresh my memory of it. My resources will be linked on our website.
Cool.
The scrap of paper that I wrote them all down on is sitting next to my bed where I finished this at 1:00 this morning. So here we go.
Thank you for your service.
Kym Morgan was born on May 24th, 1960 to John and Evan Morgan. She grew up in Palm Springs, California with her big sister, Julie. Kym loved music and played multiple instruments, including the piano, the flute, and the French horn. She was a fan of the Rolling Stones and loved dancing, photography, and sketching fashion designs. Kym strikes a... I'm going to try this again.
Hold on. Double. My God. You're so noisy.
You good, baby?
I don't think so. I know. I can't tell if I'm hearing it
I know.
where I'm hearing it. So.
Yeah.
Sorry.
She was tall, 6 feet as an adult, blonde, friendly, and outgoing, and knew what she wanted in life. In 1981, when Kym was 19, she was out dancing with her friends at a local disco when she met a man and ended up leaving with him.
Wait, still in Palm Springs or up here?
Okay, I'll start again.
Okay,
and
sorry.
I'll mention that. No, that's good. In 1981, when Kym was 19, she was out dancing in North Hollywood with friends when she met a man and ended up leaving the disco with him. I'm not sure exactly what happened between the disco and the time that she ended up in the hospital, but she was raped and beaten to the point of being unrecognizable.
Oh, no.
She's listed as a Jane Doe in the hospital, and when she never returns home and her parents start trying to locate her, her mother ends up identifying her at the hospital by a tiny freckle between her middle and ring fingers.
Oh, heartbreaking.
Yeah. But she's alive at this point.
She is alive.
Okay.
However, she suffers amnesia due to the attack.
Oh my gosh.
And spends 4 months in the hospital before transferring to rehab, where for the next year or so, she has to learn to speak, walk, and feed herself all over again.
Oh.
This doesn't stop Kym. She aspires to work in fashion and ends up moving across the country to attend the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, where she works as an assistant to one of the greatest photographers of the 20th century, Irving Penn. Irving Penn is known for breaking the boundary between commercial and fine art photography. And just as a personal aside, moving across the country to a big city like New York is a big deal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Doing that after going through what she went to.
Yes.
I don't think I could personally do that. Mm-mm. So
resilient
as all heck. So Kym is inspired to continue pursuing photography after this time in her life, and she moves to Santa Barbara to attend Brooks Institute of Photography in Montecito.
All right.
Where she's a student in 1985 while living in a small apartment with a roommate downtown on Valerio Street. In the spring, Kym places an ad in the local newspaper for housing in exchange for light housework, childcare, or gardening. And on Sunday, April 28th of 1985, Kym and her roommate decide to go out and get some breakfast. They're just heading out the door when the phone rings. Kym runs back and answers it to find a man calling in response to her ad. He and his family live in a large house in Montecito, the affluent neighborhood adjacent to Brooks, and he wants to discuss hiring Kym as live-in childcare help. This would be perfect, as we all know it's tough to live here, and finding, like, I can imagine how appealing that would be to be like, oh, it's near my school. It's a perfect setting.
Right.
Sounds too good to be true.
Room and board and...
I thought she wanted to work in a lighthouse, though. That was my dumb joke. You said lighthouse work.
Oh, lighthouse work.
I was just sitting here grinning at myself.
Lighthouse work.
Like, don't say it. Don't say it. I'll cut it out.
Oh my goodness. Wait, what are you doing with the pillow?
I'm trying to just like absorb sound.
Oh.
Oh, to block double snoring?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Okay. This is when it was touching your arm a little bit.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. He requests that they meet in an area of town known as the Mesa, as his mother-in-law lives nearby and the kids are at her house. So it would be convenient, and then they could meet up and she could meet the children to make sure it's a good fit. They agree to meet at the shopping center on Meigs Road and Cliff Drive, which currently houses Lazy Acres Market, but at the time was Santa Cruz Market and the adjacent County Lumber Hardware. And directly behind the County Lumber building, in a modest house on a cul-de-sac, little Jen is newly 9 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So this comes into play because this is like the last known spot of her, and was literally across the street from our house. And so I remember our parents hearing about this. I remember hearing about it. It was like a big thing in our neighborhood because it happened so close to us.
Yeah.
Witnesses would later describe seeing Kym in the parking lot talking to a man in his 30s, around 5'6" to 5'8", wearing a blue Hawaiian type shirt, light blue pants, and shoes with 2-inch heels, which are also referred to as like elevator shoes or lifted shoes.
Oh my gosh.
And at first I read this and I was like, I mean, if you're going to go out to do murder, like, why would you put on like a loud Hawaiian shirt?
Right.
But then I started thinking the context of Santa Barbara, like you would actually probably blend in this outfit.
Or maybe you never wear anything like that at all, ever.
Oh, true.
And you're
That's
trying
like-
to like draw
Like,
focus.
I'm a tourist.
Yeah.
What year? Sorry, what year?
1985.
85. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. I don't, the whole shoe thing is weird. I don't know if maybe that stood out to witnesses because she's 6 foot. She's tall, statuesque, blonde. And maybe someone noticed like there was a significant height difference. And also he was wearing these tall shoes.
The man was in Cuban heels.
Exactly. That's what I picture him.
He just can't let go of disco.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they also refer to him as, he's said to have dark skin, dark eyes, a quote unquote Mediterranean complexion. And I know that it's the wrong colors, but like my brain pictures him as Mercutio in Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet. Because who is he?
John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo wears like a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah.
The whole time. So I'm just like, my brain thought man in a Hawaiian shirt
I
with
like
dark
that.
hair and a quote unquote Mediterranean complexion. It was not, in fact,
John
John
Leguizamo.
Leguizamo.
But it might have been Dennis Miller.
It might have been.
No, that's later.
There's
that out.
always a 1%. He was seen next to a blue and white 1979 Buick Century, or possibly a 70s or 80s Chevy Caprice or Impala type vehicle. He's said to have had out-of-state license plates. Reports from witnesses said maybe blue and gold or yellow plates.
Okay.
Possibly Oregon. After her attack years ago, it's hard to believe what could have made Kym leave with this man, but she's never seen again.
No.
Yeah, just like, I mean, I've never had something that terrible happen to me, and I feel like my hackles are always up when I'm around people. I'm pretty cynical and suspicious. I would never go meet a man in a parking lot by myself. I can't even make a Craigslist purchase without like bringing up my husband being home any minute every 2 seconds. Like if I talk to someone on the phone, I'm like, oh, sorry, that's just my husband who happens to be right here and is, 6 foot 100 and, built like a linebacker and would definitely kill you if you tried to come here.
Remind us how old she is at the time.
So she is 24, I believe. Okay. She was 19 in 1981, and now we're in 1985.
Okay. I don't know if you care. John Leguizamo was Tybalt.
You're correct. So you can cut out that whole part. Make it so. When Kym never returns home, her roommate reaches out to their landlord to go investigate. And on Monday, April 29th, they find her car parked, unlocked, back at the shopping center. Kym's roommate doesn't know what to do, so she calls Kym's parents. And when John, her dad, hears that something has potentially happened to his daughter, all he can muster is, oh no, not again.
Oh, good roommate.
So heartbreaking.
Yeah. So wait, how long? When did the roommate find the car?
So she never comes home, and they're trying to figure out like what happened. And so the next day they go.
Okay.
So she probably was like waiting around, and then like it was really late.
Yeah.
And and then they probably went first thing Monday, I'm assuming. But I didn't see any
I have had
specific
roommates
time.
where I've been gone for like a week and they didn't do shit.
Yeah.
So I really like the idea of like women caring about each other enough to like
And remember,
call the
they were
parents.
also like they were about to head out for breakfast, and she ran back in to answer the phone, and so it was like I guess we can't go to breakfast because I'm going to go meet this guy.
Oh, okay.
So her roommate knew that she was going to meet a stranger, at this shopping center. She knew exactly where she was going and why. So Kym's reported missing to the police, and they try to piece together what happened. Kym's mom, Evan, is distraught at the thought of anything horrible happening to her daughter again. And she has a disturbing dream that she's being held captive in a remote cabin in the hills above Montecito. She says that in the dream, she sees Kym tied up in the corner of a cabin. And the dream is so vivid that even though she's generally unfamiliar with the Montecito area, she draws a detailed sketch of the cabin inside and out in hopes that it may help police locate Kym.
Wow.
I'm sorry. We can cut this too. No, we have to stop talking about cutting things, I think. But that's weird to me too. Like, hey, I dreamed this. Here's a map of the dream that I had that's clearly not where she is. Did people just like, I guess it's a desperate mom and you just like do whatever.
I almost said that ended up not leading anywhere, but that kind of is clear because unless you believe in psychic dreams, which I've had dreams where then like you have a dream and then that thing happens in real life and you don't know whether like, did I see this thing and then I dreamed? But also I get being like, this is the second fucking time that something horrific has happened to her daughter. And she's probably like, I don't even know if this is helpful. Cause I feel like I would be that in, like I've taken a kid who is bleeding to the doctor and been like, 3 days ago they fell in or they drank this thing. Does that help? Like, when your kid is, when something horrible is happening, you're like, I don't know if this is helpful,
but for like anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just like doing something.
And honestly, at the time, it probably gave her something to do and something to focus on. Like, I can do this thing that may help.
Yeah.
And probably helped her feel less helpless.
Terrible.
On late Thursday, May 2nd, which is 4 days later, I had to go back and like figure out like how many, because it's the end of 1 month into the next month.
Yeah.
So I had to like make myself a little chart. So 4 days later, on late Thursday, May 2nd, a man is out collecting aluminum cans that are sometimes tossed off the road or left behind by ne'er-do-well teens in the area of the foothills, approximately 1.5 miles east of Painted Cave Road on West Camino Cielo, just past Knapp's Castle. For any of you who have ever been there, we'll probably do an episode on that later. But I used to go there.
I didn't realize that was up that way. I thought it was above Montecito. But
you go up the 154 and then turn towards Montecito. So it is back in that direction. He spots what looks like an arm about 50 feet down the embankment. He's concerned, but due to his undocumented immigration status, he's worried about contacting anyone, reporting anything because he doesn't want to jeopardize his own safety. He eventually calls the police and is assured that he can report the incident without concern. I did like a couple of my resources or other things that I listened to said, and then he was promptly deported, which I could see that happening.
Yeah.
I could see the police being like, yeah, no, you're going to be fine. And then haha, just kidding. But I couldn't find anything that confirmed what happened to him after this. We're just going to thank him for taking that potential leap of faith to report this. Otherwise, her body would not have been found.
Yeah.
The police arrive and confirm that it is a human arm amongst the foxtails and oak brush. 2 hours later, detectives discover a head further down the hill and a leg under another oak tree.
Yikes.
The next day, as the search continues, both thighs are found side by side about a mile away in a hidden culvert that runs under the road.
Oh my gosh.
Kym had recently been bit by a dog, and her mother said that a corresponding injury on her leg helped confirm that the body parts were that of her daughter.
Oh, that poor woman, just identifying
Yeah.
her daughter by
Yeah. I mean, imagine having to identify your child's body twice in two different situations within the span of...
Second time it's in pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awful.
So a composite sketch is created of the man witnesses claim that they saw with Kym at the parking lot, and over 10,000 copies are made and distributed, in addition to stories being run in local papers, TV, and radio, asking the community for any help they can give. Police set up a tip line, and although 1,000+ tips are received, none pan out to any real significance. Multiple detectives work 18 to 24-hour shifts to try and collect evidence and follow up on leads from Santa Cruz all the way to New York. Forensic specialists determined that due to the way in which the body was processed, the killer had to have been someone with previous experience.
Oh, gosh.
The body had been drained of blood and meticulously cleaned and dismembered. The lack of decomposition at the time of discovery of the body indicated that either Kym had been held for days before being murdered, or that her body had been refrigerated until it was distributed in the hills.
So is this like a butcher?
It's like little Black Dahlia-esque, drained of blood. And
They determined that the murderer had to not only have the knowledge to have disarticulated the remains, but the tools and privacy to have spent the 10 to 18 hours that would have been necessary.
Right.
So there were they tried to find local doctors, local butchers. There was even talk of was there a guest lecturer at UCSB that dealt with, any kind of topic that would give someone the skills in order to do this. We have local hospitals that sometimes have traveling employees. So they really tried to just figure out any kind of connection that could be made. A $36,000 reward was funded by Brooks Institute and the community to try and garner more information. And after 5 months with no concrete leads, Kym's parents came to Santa Barbara to record a PSA that was distributed to local television stations, hoping to keep the case fresh in the minds of the community. Years went by with no more remains found, no crime scene, and no solid suspects. In 2002, the Santa Barbara Police Department created a cold case unit to focus on the 22 unsolved homicides in the city, including Kym Morgan's. Detectives previously assigned to her case consulted with the new unit to continue their search for her killer, but the case remains unsolved. Both the city and the FBI still consider this an ongoing investigation, and if anyone listening thinks they may have any information connected to this case, they can contact the FBI LA Field Office at 310-477-6565 or the Santa Barbara Police Department at 805-897-2300. I have a couple additional little notes that I couldn't really figure out exactly where to fit them into the story. One of them, these are kind of just personal things related to this case that kind of touched me, but I didn't know exactly where to place them. Kym's mom was given a gold ring that she was wearing. And when they first handed it to her, she said it was white hot with psychic energy. Like she immediately dropped it.
So maybe like she, put stock in the cabin dream because maybe she was, into that. Like, yeah.
But then over time, she was able to hold it longer and longer, and she now wears it.
Oh.
In remembrance of her daughter. Her sister Julie claims that the last time that her and Kym were together, they fought over, they were out together and one of them wanted to leave a club and the other wanted to stay, and they got in a big sister fight. And that final interaction still haunts her because it's the last time her and her sister were together.
That's so sad.
I always think with that stuff, like, okay, I had a really difficult relationship with my mother, and so I could go back and torture myself, but I don't, because I feel like, well, it was an honestly difficult relationship and that's normal and fine and natural. But it's so hard when like the last thing you say to someone is not the loving thing that you wish you'd left them with.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Another quote from one of the detectives that worked the case was in talking about how affected he was by it, was that when they went to the apartment, he reported seeing pink nail polish out on her dresser. And then when her arm was recovered, he recognized the color on her nails.
Oh, terrible.
And he says that will always stay with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, her torso, one arm, and the rest, like the lower half of the other leg, was never recovered.
Whoa.
This one is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And like I said, I totally remember hearing about it because it was like
the in fact your neighborhood.
Yeah, it was like just across the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to hang out there all the time. I used to go over to the Santa Cruz market and steal cardboard boxes from their dumpster and build forts in our front yard. And it's that kind of thing of any time that your little safe haven of your like home circle area can be, I don't want to say tainted. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean?
Well, especially if you're a kid and your home and your world is like this, hopefully feels like a safe place. And then something like that happens so close.
Yeah. And I feel like, for what it's worth of all the terrible things that happen currently, I feel like as kids in the 80s, like there was just a lot of that.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't the only thing that happened, like right in my own little neighborhood.
Yeah.
This is just the one I was focusing on today.
Right.
Yeah. Ugh.
I think I want to say that, like, yeah, we had a lot of those posters.
Oh, really?
Like around the area because it was so fresh and right there. And so they were trying to get anyone who was there that day that saw him that maybe had more information. Ooh. And I'll put pictures of the lovely Kym on her social media.
Yeah.
She has just, one of those sparkling faces. She looks like a lot of fun. Not that people who aren't fun deserve to die, but
No, but I bet that it's her face in particular is like really meaningful to you because you saw posters of her and you probably imagined what had happened to her.
Yeah.
And like you were 9, right? You said, like, did you hear details?
So my birthday was 10 days before she went missing.
So you were a young 9.
Yeah. So I was a young 9, but I definitely remember hearing about it.
Like that she was in pieces and stuff?
Yeah. So I remember, so I learned a little more details because you know how you grow up with things and you think that you know the story, but I remembered it as she was taken from the parking lot and then her body was discovered, chopped up in pieces all over. And I remembered it as Elings Park, probably just because it was like they said the hills. And when you're 9, Elings Park can feel like hills because, because on the mesa, in this area of town we're talking about, the mesa is kind of a raised but flat area.
Mesa?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a mesa is a table. So, so then there's like you go up and over the hills to go down to the rest of
mesa
Santa
is
Barbara.
also a mesa.
I know, it's a,
Come on.
Yes. It's an archipelago.
And cliffs can be shores. Thing.
And you can jump off the city college bluffs into the ocean
Land
directly.
right into the ocean.
That one wasn't right, but cliffs can be shores.
Yeah. So in my little sphere of 9-year-old living, the hills to me
Sure.
were the ones that are right there. And then
Yeah.
if you go over them, then you go down to the rest of downtown Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
So
makes
that's
sense.
probably why I associated it with the hills much closer to our house. So I thought this took place much closer to us. And yeah, it amazes me that like they never found a crime scene
Yeah.
and just nothing to tie. I mean, I don't know. I don't know all the ins and outs of what the police department has on this case, but yeah.
That's a gnarly one.
And the skills required.
That's
to
so weird.
Just process that body. I hate to call it processing, but
No.
Yeah.
like the skills required are a particular
Well,
set of
yeah.
skills, right? So like
And the privacy to
To do that. Ugh.
to have somewhere to bring someone in unnoticed, potentially keep them there unnoticed for a few days, or murder them
and refrigerate them.
And she, because also we don't know if the man that she left with is the man that killed her,
Right.
but if it was, like, she had quite a size advantage on him. So like for her to get in a car and then be overtaken is,
Yeah, I mean, you're right, but I feel like he would have known that and like struck particularly violently and hard to
there's
like get past that.
Sure.
There's speculation as to whether like he drugged her immediately,
Right.
like said, "Oh, let's go meet my kids,"
Yep.
and then drugged her somehow. And
Just
someone
knocked her
that would
out,
be that calculating to do what happened afterwards.
Yeah. Or you even like get to wherever he's taking her and like, oh, the kids are inside, and he opens the door and after you, and then
yeah,
there's just a million ways.
Yeah.
A million ways. Like despite her being physically bigger.
yeah. And like, was the let's meet on the mesa, was that just like a convenience thing, or was he living up there? Like, did this all happen like around the corner from me? Like,
Right. And so are you going to get picked? Like, that's just a terrifying thing to know about as a kid.
yeah. As part of the investigation, they obviously tried to link it to any other murders that had happened this way. And also, kind of just that idea of, someone who's going to take this much effort to dispose of a body it's uncommon for that to be just like a one-time thing.
Yes. That's not like this doesn't seem like an impulse.
Yeah, it's not like a
spur the
crime of
moment.
opportunity. It's, yeah. But yet, like, there's not really serial killers that have that same MO in the area. There's people that were like, oh, was it the Golden State Killer, the original Night Stalker, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, yeah, but that's not those dudes' way of doing things at all.
But that's interesting because like if it was an out-of-state car, like was he just...
Yeah, that's where they
Cruising
were
around
like,
the
is it a
country.
visitor? Is it someone that, yeah.
And like that's why there was no like recognizable pattern. If
Yeah,
there were
we'd
multiples,
We'd like to think that they would like, expand their circle
Right.
and be like, but has there anyone
Right.
in the United States or the world that has done a similar?
But like, I don't know. We all watch the crime shows like in 1985 where could you just hop on a computer and be like, hey, are there any similar cases? Or did you have to like call
I
individual?
think you had to probably call.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like it makes you, if you have no weapon, no blood, that kind of thing. Like, I
Just
mean,
no
obviously
evidence.
the forensic science was not what it is today to trace DNA and stuff in that way. But, a lot of times things like having blood gives you a little more way to trace things. At least they could have had her blood type well, I guess they would have had that.
Yeah.
But any kind of additional evidence.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
And like, what was her death the intended result of that meeting, or was he just going to rape her and she died by accident? And
Right.
like he knows the butcher, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like it could be.
So many questions.
Yes.
Yeah,
How terrible.
And like how calculated was this? Was the guy like scanning the ads,
right. The paper.
trying to find someone?
Yeah.
And like, what was the culture of looking out for yourself as a young woman. I mean, I feel like we would take a friend and be totally suspicious. So maybe just the culture wasn't, you didn't get told like, hey, everybody's out to kill you.
Right.
Watch out.
Yeah. But it's also that thing of like, but if what happened to her 4 years prior happened to me, I feel like I wouldn't need someone to be like, hey, something terrible might happen, because something terrible did happen.
Did she definitely 100% recover mentally?
That I don't know.
But then
with a traumatic brain injury, it's hard
Yeah.
to, you know, sometimes you can lose like impulse or, you know, just kind of social
social cues. Oh.
Yeah.
So
What is that
could
called?
have,
But you also probably don't
Impulse
think
control.
like lightning's not going to strike twice.
Right?
I mean, holy
like
shit.
almost the worst possible thing I can imagine happening to me
then
happened.
something
So
worse happened.
what's the odds that something even worse is going to happen?
Gosh.
Yeah, because I do that. Like I run statistics as a form of coping with my anxiety. So I'll tell myself, you know, things like when I'm camping, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I hear a noise and I start freaking out, I tell myself, you listen to you know about so many murders, and I can't think of one where a mom was just casually camping within an hour of her home and someone came into a campground and just murdered her in the middle of the night. Like, so the odds of that happening are pretty good. I can go back to sleep. Like I statistics myself out of these things all the time.
I do that when I swim in the ocean, which is rare. But as long as there are plenty of other people around me, I'm like, okay, the odds I'm not going to get
You're
eaten
like,
by a
that
shark are
person
pretty good.
probably smells yummier than to a shark than me.
Oh, what a tragedy for like just everybody.
Poor family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, if you have any information,
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of odds, the odds are slim that anyone listening to this was there.
Right.
But the more we talk about Kym, the more we put it out there into the world.
Well, it's good that it's still an open case at least, and they're open to hearing more.
Yeah.
Ah,
I feel weird about doing a magic 8-ball question on this one.
Okay.
But we can. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard because this story has so many unanswered questions that can't be answered with a magic 8-ball. I wish they could.
Yeah.
It just seems not very respectful.
We can skip it.
Okay, let's skip it.
I agree that.
Okay.
Well, once again, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Bye.
We'll see you next time.
Hi, Mom.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Ghoul's Guide to Santa Barbara. Like and subscribe on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Ghoul's Guide to SB.
Our website is ghoulsguidetosb.com. Got a spooky story or know of a haunted or paranormal location in Santa Barbara? Send it to us at ghoulsguidetosb@gmail.com.